Take one of form of evidence number two. Yesterday we tackled anatomy. Well, boom, you done. All right, next we're going to tackle the second form of evidence, which is listed third on this page. And that would be actually looking at the protein and DNA sequences of organisms and seeing if they actually have the same DNA in common for certain stretches of their genome between multiple organisms? And the answer is they do. So let's go ahead and look at one example before we look at multiple examples. So to do this, it's actually one of the easiest forms for you to do among all the other forms of evidence that we learned. So basically, geneticists take the DNA samples of different species and see if they're related. If you have a more similar sequence of DNA, then you're going to be more closely related to another species that has that similar DNA. So dogs are actually more closely related to wolves than to coyotes. Why? Because dogs share more DNA with wolves than coyotes do. And in fact, that humans and chimps actually share 98.8% of their DNA. So here's what it looks like on the chromosome level. So you can see that we have humans and chimps 23 pairs of chromosomes, and they look very similar. Some minute differences are the sizes. So some of the chimp DNA chromosomes shown in blue are maybe a little bit larger than our DNA shown in red. But the main difference is on chromosome number 2. A chimp actually has 2 chromosomes there, and we just have 1. So what that would mean is that in a chimp's case, you would have a couple extra chromosomes when you pair them up. So, because remember, we're looking at half of each DNA. This red would be like our half that we would give to a child, for example. And then this blue would show like a chimp mother, for example, the half that she's going to give to her child, okay? So, but other than that, they look pretty much the same. But we're actually going to get a little bit deeper. So I'm going to show you how to do your assignment today based on this. So if I go back to our recent notes, this is your assignment for today. And we're looking at what's called amino acids of the DNA of multiple organisms. If you learn protein synthesis, you're going to remember what an amino acid is. Maybe not, but you've heard it before. If you haven't learned it, the good news is you'll be fine anyway. All you have to do is just look at the letters and look for the differences between one organism and the next. So let's go ahead and tackle a human versus a chicken. So a human, for this specific amino acid, has a letter Q here, okay? A chicken also has the letter Q, and it turns out so does everybody else. So that means that we are all the same for our 42nd amino acid. Now for our 43rd amino acid, we're going to look at the other ones, so they're all the same. And then boom, we got some differences. So a human, for its 44th amino acid, has the letter P, okay? That means anybody else who has a P is closely related to us, okay? So if you don't have a P, then you're different. So we're actually going to highlight, and I'm going to put an X here, or just circle them in red. So you're different, you're different, you're different. So you're hunting for anything that is not what a human has, in that case a P, okay? Doesn't matter if it's an E, A, Q, or whatever. As long as it's not a P, you circle it, okay? And then we go to the 46th spot. So we have a Y there, and we only have the monkey that has a Y. Everybody else is different. So we're going to circle these guys because they're different. And I'm going to get rid of these Q's over here so we don't confuse ourselves. That's all the same. That's all the same. Humans have an A here. And everybody else but the monkey is different. So we're going to circle the different ones. And then everybody else is the same. And then this is different. This is different. And everybody's got K's. Everybody's got G's. And everybody's got I's. So here's what we're going to do. For the first 42 through 57, those amino acids, let's count our differences. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each organism and count the number of red circles I see in the row, okay? Human is kind of our baseline, so that's why I don't have any circles in there. We're comparing everybody else to the human. So the chicken has 1, 2, 3 differences in that first, so far at least. There's another chart that goes the rest of the way. The horse has 2. The tuna has 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you get the point. So I'm just going along each row and counting up the differences. So the frog also has 2. The shark has 4. 3. What the heck is that? 3. 0 so far. And 3. And so the problem is that so far, how do we know who's most closely related here? We don't yet because we haven't done all the DNA that we have available to us. So far, it looks like the monkey's going to be the most closely related because it doesn't have any differences yet. But some others are tied at 3, 2, or 4. So how do we kind of do a tiebreaker? You just keep going. So from 58 through 104, you just do the same process. So you look at what does a human have, and then you just circle the differences for each animal. So anything that's not, for example, an eye in column 58, we're going to circle that. We're going to target that. That's not an eye. That's not an eye. Neither is that. In fact, none of the other ones have eyes. So they're all different from a human. When you get done, you count your totals of differences. And don't forget to add whatever your total is here to whatever you have here to make sure that it is indeed your total. Because if you just do one chart versus the other, that's not going to give you the right answer. You need to make sure that you include the whole 2 charts to get your correct number of differences. Okay? All you're going to do down here is write your total number of differences for each organism. So how many does a horse have? How many does a chicken have compared to a human? Okay? And then we're going to go down here. And here's what we're going to do. We are going to take our organisms and we are going to organize them on what's called a cladogram. Cladogram is like an evolutionary tree to see who is most closely related to who based on DNA. So the organism with the least number of differences out of all of these is going to be placed next to a human, okay? And then the organism with the greatest number of differences is going to be farthest away from the human. We don't know what that is yet. So let's go ahead and find out. I'm going to have a hunch that the monkey is most closely related. So let's find out. Monkey's got 1 difference so far. Same. Same. 100, 101 is the same, 102 is the same, and 103 is the same, and 104 is the same. So the monkey has 1 total difference between both charts from a human. So how many differences does the monkey have? 1. And then because the monkey has 1 difference, I'm going to write it right next to the human because based on its DNA, it has the most similarities and the least number of differences, which means that it is most closely related to a human, which is why it goes next to it. Okay? I'm going to have you ignore question 4 because we haven't finished the other types yet under the circumstances. And you can go ahead and answer questions 1, 2, 3 and complete the cladogram. So email me if you have any questions, and that's what you're doing for today.